The first thing we need to do to solve or develop this rock, paper, scissors app is create the navigation and the screens. So the first screen, we're going to go into design view for this first part. The first screen is going to be the welcome screen with a start button. So I'm going to drag a button in. I'm going to call it start. I'm going to rename the IDs. Every time you drag a component in, we need to remember or have the habit of renaming the IDs. So this is a BTN start. You always use the three letters of what sort of object it is. So for instance, if I drag in a label, that will be an label, LBL, and whatever. So this might be the heading. I might change this to welcome to rock, paper, scissors. I'll make that a little bit larger. Change the properties to center, text alignment, and up the font size. There you go. So that's our first screen finished. We're not focusing on how to get things working yet. We just want to set the screens up. The other important thing is that we also rename the screen to something we know or we'll be able to easily reference in the code later on. So now, 2 seconds. We've got the start button, we've got a label for a heading, and we've renamed all those. We renamed 3 components here: the screen, the label, and the start button. We're going to create the next screen. So when we click on that start button, it's going to take us to our selection screen. So we're going to have 3 buttons on this selection screen, and they're going to be the rock, paper, scissors. So the first one, let's just make sure we're on the one that we know. So it's going to be rock. We're going to change this to BTN rock. Notice I'm using underscores and not spaces. Never have space. I don't think you can have spaces anyway. It won't let you. But it's a rule, a common rule that you don't use spaces in coding because it wrecks the compiler. So this is going to be rock, paper. It's going to paper button, and this is going to be our scissors. BTN underscore scissors. Okay, that was easy. Basically, this screen is done. We've got to rename the screen name to also screen underscore. We'll call this selection. We'll call this player. This is the player options. So going back, we're going to click start. It's going to go to the player. Once we click start, then we're going to make a selection. As soon as we make a selection, it's going to take us to a new screen, and this will be called, well, let's rename the screen straight away. This will be called the result screen. And on here, we will have a heading. This will be the label result, actually. And this will show if, I'm going to put some dummy text in here. So I'll say you won. And obviously, we need to change this text if we win or if we lose or if we draw. But that's all right. We'll make this text dynamic. I'm going to center this text, make sure I've got it to the width of the app here, and I'll up the font again. So the first thing, if you're thinking about hierarchies on this last page from a user's perspective, the first thing you want to see is if you won, drew, or you lost. So that's going to give us that information straight up at the top of the page. The way people read from top to bottom, it's also large, so it's going to stand out. It's the first thing that a user wants to see. Second thing the user wants to see is probably what the computer selected, because we're playing the computer, right? So we're going to have 2 images. One is going to be the player's image that they selected, and the second is going to be whatever the computer selected. The third thing that the player or the user wants to see is the tally or the score. So we're going to put a score underneath. I'm going to call these label player score. And as a temporary placeholder, we'll put in just player is 0. And we'll align it to the left. All right. Now, we want one for the computer as well. I'm going to call this label computer score. And we'll put in some dummy text. Computer score, just to make sure it's wide enough too. And we will line that up. Alignment doesn't really matter here, but we just want to get the components on our screen and then we can fix up, make it look nice later. The last thing on the results screen is going to be the reset button, because you want to play again. First thing you want to see is if you won. Second thing is you want to see what the computer selected and what you selected. Third thing is you want to see the scores. And the last thing, you want to go and play again. So in order, in hierarchy order, you might think this is something that people don't think about. But from a designer's perspective, it's exactly how you should be thinking. The hierarchy of elements on your screen, float and use different design elements and principles to give those components a hierarchy on the screen to make the user's life easier, to make it a user-friendly experience. Otherwise, the users get frustrated and they either give you bad reviews or they don't use your app or buy your app. So let's fix this button up. BTN. We'll call this a reset. And on here, we'll call this play again. All right, there's our components. So we have the start. We click, it goes to the player. We make a selection. And after we make a selection, we get a result. If we run this now, nothing's going to happen. So that's what we'll do in the next video.